going on, everyone? This is the Popcorn Heroes show review of Insecure, an HBO show. Yes, it is an HBO show. This is season 4, episode 3. And with me today is Orlando.
Yo, we back.
What's going on, man?
Back by popular demand. You know what I noticed that you do is you always say where can you find a show? Like you're like, this is something a Netflix show, or this is something an HBO show. You know what? I think that's a pretty good quality that you do. Like, did you? I guess just like behind the scenes, do you purposely do that? Like
yeah, because now everybody knows where this is on. You know.
Yo, dude, you're a real one for that one.
Because the thing is that we since we watch a lot of stuff, not a lot of people know the stuff we watch, where it's from, where can you find it. Right. So we might as well just say where it's from.
You're right.
Like, it's on Netflix.
I recommended someone watch The Farewell, and I didn't tell them that it was on Amazon. And they watched it like on a streaming website where it had no subtitles. Oh,
damn. You can't watch that movie without subtitles.
They still enjoyed it, but still.
Oof, they didn't get a lot of the nuances then.
Yeah,
because the whole Chinese dynamic is super important to the family.
I felt so bad. Yeah, I was just like, how do you not do your research though? You know, like when someone recommends me something. When someone recommends me something, I think, okay, let me find out where I can watch this. And especially like if I watched it on a streaming website and then it didn't have subtitles, because like I think within like the first 10 to 15 minutes, you should know that like this is gonna have subtitles. Yeah,
for sure. Especially if you see the conversations that continue to happen and they're in Chinese and you're just staring at a screen and not understanding anything.
Within 20 minutes, I would have backed out and be like, okay, let me like.
Where do I go now?
Where do I go? But no, I
would have hit you up like, yo, where did you see it? You know?
Right, yeah. But I applaud you though. I didn't think that you you consciously did that on purpose. I thought it was something that you just did out of like a routine. But yeah, man, good shit.
Yeah, you gotta let people know where it's at, man. Anyways, we're talking about Insecure, season 4, episode 3. Third episode now. We're nowhere near halfway. I was gonna say we're halfway. But no, we're not.
10 episodes a season. So
yeah, if they've always been pretty good about 10 episodes a season.
I think there've been 8. There were 8 episodes last season.
Yeah. And I'll look that up. We'll keep talking. Orlando, so what did you think about this latest episode?
Yo,
and as usual, we're just jumping right into it. We're not gonna. So there's no spoiler free. We're just spoilers all day.
This is straight spoilers. Yo, so I finished watching this episode. So I watched this episode like little by little. I didn't watch it on when it premiered. I watched it a little bit before work, and then right before I got on to record with you, I watched it, and I saw that dude, my nigga, sliding into DMs, and it's funny because we've talked about, me and you have talked about DMs, just in general. How do you talk to someone through your DM? How do you approach someone? And I think it was like,
and how you could easily fuck it up.
How can you easily fuck it up? But me and you talked about off record, off mic. Yeah. How do you talk to someone through DMs? And I told you one of the easiest ways is like you like someone's story, or you like put a smile, like what he did. He put like a laughing emoji or something, and she responded, and that's an instant conversation starter. What I do if someone likes my story and I don't want to talk to them, I just like the fact that they liked my thing. So they liked it by giving it like emoji or whatever, and then I just double tap my thing so they could see that I liked their response. That's just
liking is an easy conversation ender.
Yeah, man. Yeah, of course. Yeah, but it depends.
Especially if there's not following up.
Right. I think the dynamic of sliding into like a DMs, it really just depends on the person and the relationship you already have with that person. So like, if you know like this is not like a thing that I'm gonna pursue, or if we don't really have that dynamic, then I don't like continue a conversation. I just like the fact that you like my stuff, and then that's it. Because I post memes all the time. and so
Yeah.
I get a
Yeah,
few
you post a lot of
people.
stuff.
Yeah, I get a few people who like my stuff. I have like a few fans basically who like my stuff, but they just like it just to like it. It's not like I'm purposely liking your stuff so we can start a conversation. You know?
Yeah, I get what you're saying for sure. So far, seasons 1 through 3 have been 8 episodes. This is the first 10 episode order Insecure has had.
So yeah, this has a
FYI.
lot. So what did you think about that ending? You know, like
Of essentially them texting each other on the DMs.
well, not only just that, it comes
Oh, just
off,
the whole total thing.
it comes off the interaction he has with Condola. Think about it. Like he literally has a Condola. He literally has a not a fight, but they have a discussion of like, are you over your ex? If you are, do you think that you would have still been with her if she didn't cheat on you? And then after having that conversation, he starts a conversation with Issa. After having a conversation with his current girlfriend, or the person he's seeing, whatever.
You think that was his intention, is to start a conversation with Issa, or was he just reacting to the situation, her story?
I really don't know. I really don't know if it's like. I try not to think that people are that like manipulative, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes things could be just a friendly hit up, you know, a friendly conversation. So I don't try to think that people have on the back of their minds, but it is a interesting in terms of storytelling in the TV show, in terms of writing in the TV show. It is very telling that you would have a discussion with your partner or girlfriend or person that you're seeing, and then you're like, with that in mind, that discussion in mind, then you minutes later, hours later, in the comfort of your home, you kind of reach out to your ex. Storytelling wise, there's something there.
Okay.
Normally, you know, I think it's fine if you guys are just friends or whatever, and like that just happens, like you guys casually just catch up. But as a story to tell, as a storytelling platform, these are moving pieces. These are not just coincidental things that are happening, because at the end of the day, like, this is a 30-minute show, and everything that is happening is there for a purpose.
Yeah, no, for sure. I completely agree with that. I feel like you did. I think it was. I don't think it was. It was an unintentional intent, I guess you can say, where he was reacting to something, but I'm pretty sure he liked the fact that she wrote back. Essentially, sometimes when you react to something, you just react to like, oh, that was cool, and that's it, and you don't really expect a response, but the fact that she was responding, he really liked that, because sometimes even when people respond, you're like, oh, cool, you responded, that's nice. But you just kind of do those stuff sometimes just to do it, just because that was pretty cool.
Right. It is very easy. I think it's weird because I find it very awkward when people emphasize social media a lot. I find it awkward when people are like, oh, well, we stopped talking, but they kept looking at my story, like, I feel that's weird. Like, I feel that's like when people emphasize social media a lot as a platform for interactions and dating. Yeah, dating does happen there and stuff like that, but I just don't put a lot of stakes on it. Because it's such a big platform, and you're live you're pretty much live with everyone all the time. So I don't know, but I've listened to people tell me that, like, if you, let's say, for example, you are not talking to someone in terms of like a romantic setting that you used to talk to, and you look at their stories, that's messed up.
That's too far.
You think that's messed up?
No, I think that's too far. That form of thinking.
Well, because I think I've been told that basically, if you wanted nothing to do with their life, like in their life, why are you like looking at their daily day, like their day by day? But this
leads to the big question I have. But after we talk about the episode, we could discuss the big question I have for you.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll talk about that later. But yeah, social media in terms of like dating, in terms of like sliding into DMs, I really don't think much of it because I do it all the time. In terms of like I write someone or I put an emoji, and my intentions for the most part are just like, hey, that's something funny.
Yeah,
and
cool
then
shit.
and sometimes there is an intention of like, I want you to see I like this so we can start a conversation. And it has worked on several occasions, and sometimes it doesn't work. But I do not put much weight behind sliding into DMs.
No, for sure, I agree with that. So let's start with the episode. How did you like it? Because I don't think you've mentioned if you liked the episode.
Yeah, I did like it actually. I overall I really enjoyed the episode. Once again, we're slowly but surely moving pieces. Molly and Lisa they finally realized that they haven't been like clicking in terms of talking,
and they definitely feel the funk now.
Yeah, which is good because that means there's something that needs to be addressed. Which obviously both seems like Issa's postponing it, but Issa had valid reasons to postpone, in my opinion. And I
still think that postponement is also gonna lead to even more postponement to the big blow up. Because she brushed it off. Like she could have easily gone to Molly's house and be like, "Yo, this was bothering me." And then Molly could have been like, "Yeah, this was bothering me," you know. But I think Issa at that moment, when her brother just like, essentially, do you, you know, fuck what anybody says, just do you. She's like, like she in her head, she's like, "Yeah, fuck it, I don't feel like doing this right now, so I'm just gonna do it some other time," you know.
Right. I mean, and that makes sense.
I think that postponement is just gonna keep adding up.
Yeah, and that does make sense. I mean, honestly, like you're coming off a high of like having a good time with your brother, like you know this conversation is gonna be annoying. You know it's gonna you guys are gonna butt heads. You know it's not gonna be like a pleasant conversation, and you just got off a high with like your brother and Thanksgiving. You know, like you don't want no one to kill your vibe, so it makes sense. And you're right, I can totally see them postponing, and at the end they're like, you know, fuck it, you're not listening to me, I'm not being heard, and such. You know, I could see that happening for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, their relationship is on definitely shaky waters. So how did you feel about the whole Molly thing and her dad? Because that was a kind of like a leftover from last season, where she found out that her dad cheating on his mom, and she spent all these years not knowing about it, and like she found out last season, and like she's still holding that grudge against him. How do you feel about that dynamic?
I get it. I understand it. At the end of the day, I'm with her brother though, in that sense of like, yo, like this ain't about you. Like he apologized and he made amends to the person he needs to make amends for, and at the end of the day, if she's okay with it, you gotta be okay with it.
Yeah.
So I agree with that 100%. But I think it just throws a wrench in her psyche in a sense. Like maybe that's why it adds to her being so guarded. You know, like we did find you're right, that did happen last season, but she's been guarded for a while. But it doesn't help. It clearly doesn't help the fact that like you're already guarded, and then the people you thought that were happily married, there's been some infidelity. So that doesn't help you like believe in partnership when that happens, of course. But yeah, I get her. I just wouldn't go that route. You know?
Yeah. No,
what about you?
I definitely wouldn't have gone her route. I mean, again, it's between her and her mom.
Right.
And if her mom was willing to forgive him after all these years, then who am I to judge you guys? You know, it's your problem. Just like I wouldn't want you involved in my shit. Like how can I put myself in that position with you guys? You know, it's up to you. It's you if you feel comfortable, if that's what you want, and you think things are better and working out or whatever, and that's on you. You know. So I wouldn't do that. Plus, I don't have her fairy tale idea that she had last season that her parents' relationship was perfect, and I need to find that perfection. And I think that really shattered her illusion with everything. So I never felt that relationships are perfect to begin with, you know.
I mean, and if you think of it like this, both her mindsets, at least the way you're describing it, is detrimental to her finding a partnership. If you think, if the last season you thought, well, I need to emulate my mom and dad because they're perfect, and then guys come along and they're like, okay, well, they're not like my mom and dad, or we don't have this, we don't have I don't see longevity here. Then you have that defense. Then after you find out he cheats, you're just like, well, nobody's good enough, because even the relationship that was perfect is not perfect. And how can I find love if they couldn't make it? Both mindsets are very. If it's that concrete and there's no like way to sway your mind, like it's just like this or that, they're both very detrimental thinking in terms of finding a partner. They set up more walls and prevent more potential lovers to come in both aspects. So
yeah, I agree. So that's a good point. And I think this is the first time you finally meet Issa's mom, right? I don't think we've met her before.
We have met her. I forgot what season or what episode, but I do recall seeing her before.
Man, I didn't remember that at all.
Yeah. You know, side characters, they're not really that important, and it doesn't seem like this family dynamic played much of a role in this episode, Issa's family dynamic. So
nah, I think essentially family is what you make, you know.
Right.
I think that's what this episode, if anything, in the back of the minds was trying to say, that, you know, you make your own family. Because essentially Issa and her brother are just each other's family. You know, they don't really care about anybody else.
Right. And we've seen that demonstrated time and time again throughout the seasons.
Yeah. And then you had Molly with her actual family and her family dynamics. And then you essentially had each of their friends with their own quote-unquote families. And then, you know, I think the crux of this episode, which was, you know, the Lawrence side of the episode, of how Condola has her own little family of friends and stuff like that. But the big part of the episode was them and in the situations that they were put in, you know?
Yeah. So how did you feel about everything with terms of Lawrence and Condola and this episode?
Well, I think what makes their shit so complicated is that it's so new. It's so new, and anything can make anybody feel insecure, essentially. You get what I'm saying? So it's a fragile point in any relationship, you know, the beginning, because it might be all great, but you still don't know each other. You still don't know how each other think, and any little thing that makes you feel insecure or uncomfortable gets exponentially bigger than what it's supposed to be, you know? So at the beginning of the episode, you had Lawrence run into Issa at the coffee shop, and, you know, they had that joking banter, the inside joke they had from, you know, years, whatever. And then all of a sudden, Condola runs into them, walks in and sees that happening. And, you know, she felt insecure about being, oh, these people are really cool and tight. They have these jokes that I don't know anything about, you know. I don't have that with him. How can I emulate that with him? You know what I'm saying? Or, you know, whatever it is. And that creates essentially it plants a seed in her head, essentially, of just like, damn, can I ever have this with him, you know? And then you had Issa longingly looking back after all that interaction.
Right.
So it's these things of like, it plants seeds in everybody's head, essentially, right? That kind of moment. And then you further into the moment of when he's at the dinner with her friends, with Condola's friends, and that whole dinner was very awkward.
Yes.
I felt bad for Lawrence in that moment. I was just uncomfortable for him.
He just didn't seem like he connected with anyone really. Honestly, I didn't like her friends. I just felt like
they were awkward.
I felt like they were very awkward, and like there was that one person who was kind of like very loud and very like funny, try to be funny.
She was wasted.
But she was kind of wasted. And then there was the quiet guy who was like, I'm drunk, but you know, this is how I am. It's like remind me of Pedro when he gets drunk. And then there's the other couple that were just like it just felt weird. It felt weird all around. It felt very weird. There was the lesbian couple that was also working tech, and it kind of she pretty much said, hey, like, is your company going through some shit? And he's just like, yeah. And like that wasn't the conversation that him and Condola already had. So it was just every moment of it was just awkward.
It was a roadblock.
Yeah,
it was kind
every
of
moment
a roadblock.
was awkward.
I didn't like it.
Yeah, but I feel like that is what happens when you meet your significant other's friends. I feel like that happens a lot.
No, for sure.
And
it's always awkward.
Yeah, and unless you click with them, I understand Condola like saying like, hey, I wasn't thinking about inviting you because, I didn't want it to be a lot of pressure. And I've been in situations where when you have friends that have been friends for years, like you and I and such, the other person always feels like a third wheel, even though they're like the significant other, because friends normally talk about inner stories and they catch up, and it's always like it's not always, but it's like that. This felt very real to me, of like you are in their world, you are the one on the outside looking in. So I understood her when she was saying like, I wasn't thinking about inviting you, but I didn't think that was a mean thing. Or I didn't think it was like saying like, oh, we're not that serious, that's why I didn't invite you. It was kind of like, I wanted to save you from these interactions that you probably would not have enjoyed.
Maybe interacting with them little by little.
Right.
In smaller settings, not such a big monumentous moment of, inviting someone to Thanksgiving is kind of a big deal.
Right.
Do you think it was too early for that? Or did it matter?
I mean, it seemed...
Because you had those two dynamics, right? You had Condola, who ended up having Lawrence in that moment, and they were just a new relationship. And then you had Molly and her guy, where she was considering inviting her guy, and she was like, oh, maybe it was too early to invite him, so she didn't. So you had these two kind of opposites at this moment, of someone who did and someone who didn't.
I didn't notice the contrast, and I'm glad you pointed out. And as shitty as the way Issa sounded, because Issa took it more like Molly took it more like a jab, kind of like, oh, don't invite him because you're gonna scare him off, because you're gonna act like yourself. But I think, especially the way it played out, Molly was in a funk when she was at her parents' house. Having your partner there maybe might have helped, but it would have been awkward for him.
Yeah.
So I agree with Issa in that regard, but she sold it wrong, obviously. But it is just...
she always sells it wrong.
Not always, but in this current season, they just seem to be not on the same page. And she has been taking jabs at Molly a lot. I mean, they both have. But it seems like they both are not supportive of each other's like situations. That's basically what it is, and they both want to be supported. But yeah, you know what, I think the best call is to not invite the significant other, at least in this show, at least in these parameters.
What about like in life itself? You think it's 3 months too early?
I really don't know.
That's what they say. Lawrence was 3 months, and I think essentially Molly's probably been dating this guy for about maybe a month. So,
Yeah.
too early
I really,
that type of
I don't know.
dinners?
I'm not. I shouldn't be the one to like. I really don't know honestly. What's too early? What's not too early? People move at different paces, so.
Yeah.
But I do like. There's been times where I would I date someone and then friends come into town or something happens and like, hey, you shouldn't come because this is gonna be this is gonna be friends catching up and you're gonna feel like a third wheel. Okay, I'm not gonna go. I've been in situations where like, hey, I'm hanging out with all my coworkers. You should come. I come and it's all work talk. I think, fuck, I should have just stayed home.
Yeah.
So, and then I also been in situations where like, hey, you should come, and I get along with everyone. Everyone gets along with me. The party's over, and then all they talk about is like, hey, bring your significant other again. That was great, you know. So I've been in every possible scenario of like, don't come, it sucks, and don't come, it'll suck. I go and it sucks. I go and it's great. It really is just up to the people, and how how it is.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think for big moments like that, I think it is too early. Because you're still trying to figure out the other person,
Right.
and then you're introducing all these unknown elements to the relationship, and you don't know how they're gonna react, or you don't know how those unknown factors are gonna act, and
Right.
you don't know how you're gonna react to all those unknown factors. So I think it's just a big melting pot of could be great, could be bad, could be awkward, and all these things. I think if they've been together for a few months now, and they're used to each other, and things are going well, like, yeah, jump into that shit.
I will say this, just prior to in real life, prior to if I dated someone for 3 months, you guys would know that person.
Yeah, in a smaller setting.
Right. Yes, exactly. I think if I dated someone for 3 months, for sure, you guys, I mean, by you guys, I mean, Pedro, the podcast people, podcast group, you guys would have for sure met that person or have talked about that person to you guys. It's kind of like how we talk about Mike's girl, who we randomly found out about. It's just you would know basically, and I do feel that like my friends would at least have met them or they would have know about them.
Yeah.
I just don't know if I would get them all in the same room, together.
Yeah, I think it's better introduced in a smaller individual setting of people you trust, because then, like, let's say I bring in have a girl, you're gonna meet her. We'll go out drinking one night, and then I'm like, yo, I'm gonna invite this girl I'm talking to, and that's it. That's how you'll meet her, or whatever. And that's how probably Pedro will meet her. In situations where it's all controlled. But so then whenever there is a big party, that person will already know some people there, and wouldn't feel awkward in that big setting because I don't only have my significant other to talk to. I have these other two people I have already met, and then whoever they're talking to.
That's also very smart. I didn't think of it like that because you're right. Because I've been in situations where I met somewhere and the only person I know is my significant other. So I rely on them to keep me in the loop in terms of like what are some inside jokes, what are some things like that, and I rely to them to like not to make sure I'm not bored. Yeah, to not no don't leave me alone and make sure I'm not bored.
I hate that. I hate being alone because it's the most awkward position to ever be when you don't know anybody. You feel like a loser, and you feel like you're dependent on somebody, and it's just a terrible feeling.
Yeah, of course. Do you think Lawrence felt alone?
Oh yeah, for sure.
In that episode.
Yeah, he was trying to be his charming self, but and it was kind of working in certain situations, but I do feel he was super alone. I think all her friends were very guarded, especially when that tech talk with that girl who works in tech also.
Yeah,
I think that could have been a great like coming together, like, oh, you work in tech, I work in tech, oh cool, let's talk about, you know, what do you think about this and that.
I thought it was gonna
and
happen.
She was
that
just
way.
very guarded, like I think she felt superior to him, like, oh, aren't you guys going through some problems? Because she's working at a greater, because Lawrence did say like, hey, that's a great company, everybody wants to work there, you know. And then I think that the dynamic shifted into her feeling superior than him, because, oh, I'm in a better position than you are. And
Yeah,
I think it didn't allow them to actually like
maybe
connect, or
it just I feel like that
together.
conversation was so short, and it's, you know, it's TV, so they had to keep the ball moving. But I saw that conversation going from, oh, you're going through shit, and then he's like, oh yeah, I might bounce. And who knows, it could happen in the next episode or two of like, hey, come to where I work. I literally saw that as like a door opening. So
Yeah.
I didn't get the superior, I'm better than you, or I work at a better spot, because the conversation didn't really go that far.
Yeah.
Because I think the purpose of that conversation was that
The
Lawrence,
future.
yeah, Lawrence isn't talking to Condola about what is happening. So it was, I think that was the point of that conversation, of that interaction, as a storytelling, not like just in real life, just storytelling wise. They wanted us to see that communication is off throughout that Thanksgiving interaction with Lawrence and Condola. They wanted to show that their communication skills are off. So they first introduced that with the tech girl saying like, oh yeah, I'm working. What's going on with your company? Like, oh yeah, it might go under. I might leave. And then the Condola's like, oh really? Why haven't you told me? Like, yeah, it's just something that's happening. She's like, oh, okay, I hope it works out for you. Blah blah. That's one instance of
right.
like, hey, this is, check out this example of them not communicating. And then the best friend is just like, oh, it's so good that she has someone casual. Boom.
Well, but before that,
What was it?
in the couch when she's like, oh, I'm never gonna get married or whatever.
Right, exactly.
Conversation
So,
number 2. You're right.
exactly.
And then the third one was the last
and
one.
the third one was that it was just saying like, whoa, you guys are not talking. You guys are not communicating. I felt like that was the purpose of those interactions. Like, it could be what you're saying. Maybe there was a power play, but really, I think as a writing perspective, as a storytelling perspective, they wanted to show you that there are some inconsistencies in terms of them speaking.
Yeah, no, for sure. I can see that now.
Yeah. So I really didn't think it was trying to show anything else but that. And who knows, the fact that this person is introduced and has a higher position, maybe it might propel to something else of like, hey, there's an opening in my spot, you should totally apply or something.
Yeah. I like what Lawrence mentioned when he was in the car with his friend. It was just like, you know, if it's not work, it's relationship. If it's not relationship, it's some other thing. Like, nothing in my life can ever be perfect.
Yeah.
And that's essentially like anybody's life, dude. Nothing. It's always gonna be something that's gonna be off. Nothing is ever full circle.
Yeah. I mean, work. I always think of the Set Your Goals song, which I'm sure our audience doesn't know Set Your Goals, but Work in Progress.
Oh yeah, a constant work in progress, and I
wouldn't have it any other way. Yeah.
And then that's what you wanted.
Yeah.
It's not exactly what you want it to be.
Yeah, exactly. So
Time's gonna get
for people who don't know, it's a pop punk band, and they have a song called "Work in Progress," basically saying that like life is a constant work in progress. So yeah, I definitely agree. I think it's true. It's just like that. The things don't work out that way, and I'm curious to see what's gonna happen between them, because. So before this episode, I read an article about Lawrence's job. Like, the actor talked about, like, I'm not sure if I'm fucking up this like season for myself, because I keep like finding out random tidbits. But he basically said, the actor said, his job is going to be a new problem that's going to throw a wrench in him and Condola's relationship. So maybe it could be, but there's
he stopped spending time.
He stopped spending time with her, or he's more focused on the job. So we'll see what happens in that front. Obviously, Issa is also another wrench being thrown in there. But what did you feel about this episode is heavily on Condola and Lawrence. So what did you feel about her saying that she doesn't want to get married anymore? Do you think that's a problem for Lawrence?
Well, I think for me, it's understandable for her. Like, she just got divorced, and I think I'm not saying everybody feels this way or whatever, but when you've gone through divorce, you don't really think about doing it again, getting married again. It's kind of like, damn, I already did that, and this was a terrible experience. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to go through this anymore. So I feel Condola is in a standby mode, while Lawrence is more like, I want a future. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that future. I need that future, or essentially, or something like that. So I think they both are in different aspects of emotional and commitment relationship wise. Like, he's more of like, oh, I want to be with you and I want us to go somewhere. And I think she's more of like, in the sense of, I want to see where this goes. Like, so I'm not committing to anything. I like you. I enjoy you. I like spending time with you. But I'm more in this moment than you are thinking ahead, essentially.
So you think she's a bit guarded? Like, do you think her friend was right? That is Lauren just a casual fling? Is Lauren just a fuck buddy?
Maybe. We don't know much about Condola. We just what we know from her are the interactions with Lawrence and Issa. We don't really know anything about her, so we don't know why she got divorced. We don't really know her side of things. I just feel that she's very reluctant to move forward with things. Again, like I said, she was more on standby of, if things get better or things go well, maybe I'll think about it. But for now, I'm just enjoying the situation we're in. And think Lawrence is more of thinking future. And
do you think Lawrence is ready for a commitment? Given the fact that he is still, it does. Do you think he is not over Issa?
I mean, I feel if you've been with somebody for so long, there will always be some lingering things there. But he is willing to give somebody a chance, and that's a very big step. Because before, he was being fuckboy, Lawrence, where he was just fucking, he didn't care. But now he's willing to open up and give somebody that chance to be the future person he could be with, And I think for him, Issa's just a reminder of what could have been, Because if she didn't cheat, I honestly think they will still be together, like how where it all ended on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That question where he was just lingering there was because he was like, and he was thinking about, like, man, maybe I would still be with her. But I mean, maybe I wouldn't have that push to be where I'm at right now, though.
I agree with you 100%, but hypotheticals are hypotheticals for a reason. Like, yes, if she didn't cheat, they would probably still be together, but that is not the reality of it. The reality is that she cheated, and they broke up because of it, and it hurt a lot, and he had to get over it. Like, that is the reality that is in the show. And so I really don't like questions like that.
Yeah, because me neither.
I just feel like it's just a setup for disappointment for the other person.
It's an
Yeah,
irrelevant question.
it's irrelevant because it. Oh, what if we lived in this time and things were different? Nah, homie, we live in this current time. I'm broke as fuck. This is my life. Like
Yeah.
you deal or you don't deal. Like that is what we have here. You know, like I can't. Maybe I'm speaking because of it's very I've went through something similar, but it's very it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter because what matters is like what has occurred, what has happened, and what is happening now.
Yep.
So I totally agree. I do not like questions like that. Obviously, yeah, they would have been together. That's a no brainer because he was, if she didn't cheat, he was gonna be with her. But that's in his mind though, obviously, because in her mind, in Issa's mind, if things didn't change for Lawrence, she could have bounced.
Yeah.
You know, because he was cool with how everything how everything was. Obviously, she wasn't.
Yeah.
So if she didn't cheat, maybe she would have. Maybe they would have broken up anyway.
Yeah. I think essentially, I mentioned this in one of our earlier when we first, I think season 1 when we did our first episode. Him breaking up with her was a catalyst for him to change his life.
Of course,
Because he was so in this funk, and who knows if he would have gotten out of it by still being with her.
right?
The whole reason why he changed was because of that breakup.
Yes,
It made him kind of realize, oh man, I'm in a funk. I'm fucking up, and I need to change something about my life, or I'm gonna change my life now to prove this girl wrong or something like that, you know. So, whatever it was, that was a catalyst to change. And I think sometimes that happens when you're in a relationship. You just kind of become stagnant, and you're comfortable in the situation you are in. And then you just kind of shut off, So either something has to change to make things better, and that the change that was needed for him was that breakup.
right. Of course.
So
I agree 100%. That's the thing. You don't get fucking glow up Lawrence without the breakup, and that's 100%. And that is what Condola needs to realize, I guess, by even asking that question. Like there is no Lawrence, the Lawrence you have, without that breakup. Because without that breakup, you might, not gonna say you probably will, but he might have been just comfortable the way things were, and then Issa might have just said, "Fuck it, I'll just stay,"
Yeah.
And you might just get bum Lawrence. Like that is the trade off. You get Issa. If you get Issa and Lawrence season 1 together, you get bum Lawrence and not satisfied Issa. That's what you get if it were to continue, because we don't know how it would have played out, because that is a hypothetical, and so we can't know really how that would have played out if they stayed together.
What did you think about the whole situation?
I get it. I get her asking the question. I truly do. I get her insecurities. I agree with you 100%. I think when you're with someone for a long time, especially 5 years, that doesn't go away easily. And just that connection doesn't go away. So yeah, I have dated people, and I have even people that I've not dated for a long time. I just know when I have a connection with somebody, even if I don't have history with them. Sometimes I just have a connection with someone, and I know, like, in a different world, in a different light, we could have dated or something. But it's okay. But that just when you have that, when you click with someone, you just click with someone, and it's a natural thing. Because they click too. Condola and him obviously click. They obviously get along. They obviously like each other. That I think she's taking for granted what she has well, because we have to realize that you also mesh with him really well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
So what do you feel like? Do you think like the same thing you asked me about Lawrence. Is you think Lawrence is ready for the next step, or where do you think her head is at?
I don't think I don't know. I really don't think he's ready. I really don't think he's ready. Like, I think he wants to be ready. And I think he wants to be ready because he wants to just be like, okay, I am over Issa. Like she does it, especially currently how the show is trying to tell us that he's texting her in a DM, he's getting happy. It's telling us that he might not be over it. That's what that's what this show currently is trying to tell us by its messaging.
Yeah.
And because it's trying to tell us that, even if it's true or not, I don't think he is fully over it. I think he likes Condola a lot. I think he's gonna be with her. I think he wants to be with her. I just think he knows that like Issa does have a tie on him. But Issa, they didn't. It's not like Issa begged for him to come back or anything. That never happened. They kind of just had an understanding, like, okay, this is not gonna work out. And who knows if Issa begs him to come back or makes a grand gesture for him to come back, maybe his mind will change, because that hasn't happened at all in this show.
No.
The last time that could have happened was a fake out in season 1, where he shows up and then they make up and then it shows him getting married and having a baby. Like,
yeah.
He literally just says bye Issa and they close the door and that's it. Like, she doesn't chase after him. Who knows if she does that grand gesture, do you think that if she were to do herself on the ground and be like, hey, like, I messed up, obviously, but I think there's still something here, do you think he would go back?
I don't think she needs to throw herself. I think it's just a conversation that needs to be
had.
Right,
not a conversation, but
there's unspoken things between them that they never talked about because of pain, and something that they didn't want to confront because of that pain. So I think if they have a legit conversation and not even jump into the relationship, but just jump into a friendship, and see where it takes them from there, I think maybe they can be back. I think it all depends on situations, and I think maybe this conversation, maybe all this will lead to that at the end of the season, potentially.
Right. So what you're saying is that you don't think they ever had closure?
Not necessarily. I don't, because they somewhat did have a closure, like you said, on that fake out where they had sex and he's just like, yeah, I gotta go, but they never talked. They never talked about their situation maybe they passively mentioned it, but they were still angry at each other, so they could have never have a decent, grown up conversation about how they felt. So I think they still need to have that, and they haven't had that. Until they don't have that, you would never know if there's a possibility of something or if there's closure. You know what I'm saying? They need to have it. It needs to, and there needs to be a conversation where they're both just in a good state of mind and be like, hey, like, how do we feel about each other? Do you feel like you could forgive me for what I did? I'm sorry for what I did and all this bullshit.
So the conversation, I just want to get your perspective. The conversation that they're having, are they rehashing what happened, like the fallout between them? Because I think what's good about this. What's good about this episode is that you get some insight on how each of them feel somewhat. One, you do have that conversation with Lawrence and his friend where, like, he was saying, like, yo, you were a bum last year.
Yeah.
And it also gives you a time frame. So you realize it's been like a year since Issa and Lawrence broke up. So that's also...
Damn, a lot has happened in a year for them.
Yeah, it seems like, yeah, because he said you were a bum last year, and so it seems like it's been a year since they broke up, and then Lawrence had his glow up. So
hasn't been that much time.
It hasn't been that much time, and it also gives Lawrence some insight of like, yo, like, you were fucking up. You know, who knows if if he's aware of that, if he's self-aware of his fuck up. Maybe he was, because he has changed, like, he did like a 180.
Yeah.
And it also gives you some insight on how Issa feels. Issa did have that conversation with her brother, saying like, I feel that she's reaping all the benefits. Condola.
Yeah, you see, I was about to ask you that right now.
Yeah.
Because,
so
what do you feel about? Okay, go.
So Issa says to her brother, saying like, hey, I saw Condola and Lawrence, together, and her brother's like, oh, what do you feel about that? And she's like, I feel that she is reaping the benefits of the work that I put in. And I thought that was like kind of harsh.
Yeah, and
what do you think about
that? Of also, and she also says, I was with the potential, and now she's reaping the benefits. I don't like it, because I feel we all need to be individuals,
right?
And it's up to the individual to decide whether they can change and be better, not necessarily who you're with.
Right. I think it negates Lawrence's
the growth
that Lawrence did on his own.
Mm-hmm.
But
again, she's being selfish. She's thinking selfishly.
Right.
And that's what led to the whole thing of,
Do you think that she is saying that she is the reason why Lawrence is the way she is? Do you think she's saying that the reason why Lawrence did like man up is because of me? You think that's what she's
probably
saying?
I think so. I think that's essentially what she's saying with that
or she is saying like, oh, he didn't man up with me. I had the potential. I had the person who had I was with the potential. She had she has the overachiever. Is that what she's saying? Like, oh, I didn't make him what he is, but I had him pre-made.
So she's essentially contradicting herself, because she's
I'm asking you.
But
which one do you think?
I'm saying, like, she's contradicting herself, because first she says that she's Condola's reaping the benefits of what I did, and then she contradicts herself by saying that, oh, I had the potential. Now he is who he is. Right. So she's literally contradicting herself in those points, right? Because she's saying,
I want to make sure I got that wording right for that episode. I wonder if she did truly said, like, I have the show right here, but yeah, I wonder if she is contradicting herself within that sentence, because it's very interesting to say one thing and then shoot yourself in the leg as well,
Yeah, let me see here. I'm gonna look for it.
But yeah, it's very telling. You could tell that basically she is sour about it. She doesn't.
She super is.
Yeah, she's super sour about it. She doesn't feel comfortable with it.
And I also feel like that's I think that's a very selfish selfish point to have with somebody. I don't think anybody makes anybody. I think you could help people find themselves and find what they can be, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you make somebody, unless you literally make somebody. Right. But at this point, I don't think she made him. I think what happened between them made him realize what he needed to do,
right,
to change his life.
Right.
I don't necessarily think that she made him.
Do you think, if anything, she enabled him to be the way he is?
Oh yeah, for sure. Hell yeah.
She didn't make him, but she kept him.
She kept him bummy.
She kept him being bummy.
It's like, oh, you could keep doing your thing, man. Like, oh, you could. And you also saw that in the beginning, where she was just like, oh, you keep doing. You got it. You could do it. I believe in you and all this stuff. And it comes to a point of just like, no, dude, you need to do something. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to change something about you to make something happen.
Right.
You need to snap out of it. I think at some point you could enable somebody to see if that helps them out, but then at some point you have to be like, okay, me doing this for you hasn't helped you, so now I have to do something else to maybe push you to do something.
Right.
Because at some point, all of us need a push. Either it comes from us, our life situation, or someone else.
Of course.
Causes us to be like, oh damn, I need to do something.
Right. And how would you feel? How would you feel if you had, hypothetically, even though we hate hypotheticals as we established already, but how would you feel if you had an ex and then she had a glow up? She got her shit together or something. Let's say she wasn't like, I don't know. Let's just say she didn't get her shit. She didn't have her shit together while she was with you. In a sense, she was like a Lawrence, and then she has her grow up and her glow up. How would you feel seeing that person and how they became? Would you feel the same way? Would you feel cheated on? Like not cheated, like that you missed out?
All right. Pause. Remember that. Write it down. Whatever you want to say, because I didn't hear anything you said. But okay. I found the quote that Issa said when she was telling her brother.
You got it.
So essentially, she goes, "I got the nigga with potential. I feel like she's reaping all the benefits of his time with me."
Oh shit. Okay. And then she says,
"That's it."
Okay.
So that's essentially the crux of that quote. What I saw. Do you think there's a contradiction?
So she's
there?
basically saying like yeah, that's kind of weird because like I said, like it's like what you said. There isn't. She's saying like, if it wasn't for me, there is no Lawrence. There is no Lawrence that Condola has, but that's not true though, because Lawrence grew up, and his career growth and his as a character happened after her. If anything, she kept Lawrence stagnant.
Yeah.
I always tell people when it comes to the topic of like changing and stuff, I always say that we can't look towards the future because we don't know the future, but the past is a good indication of what's going to happen in the future. Yeah. So for the most part, if the past is, a bum Lawrence, that's the only thing we can expect because we don't know the future. So with that being said, she got the potential. She definitely had a potential Lawrence, Issa. She had bum potential Lawrence. But that doesn't mean she would have got the same Lawrence that you got now.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
That is very true.
So the question I proposed was, how would you feel if you were in Issa's shoes and your ex-partner, had a tremendous growth in development, career-wise, character-wise? How would you feel then seeing them with someone else?
And
once again, we obviously hate hypotheticals, but I guess
for sure, yeah.
For the sake of the show, for the sake of this conversation.
Yeah. I think it's I wouldn't necessarily be like, man, it's a sting, but it would have been, man, I'm happy for her, but man, I wish that could have happened when we were together,
Right, of course.
I wouldn't hate her for being successful. Like, I want that from everybody I've ever dated, I want all of them to be successful. I want them to overcome everything that was bothering them during the time with me, so I wouldn't. It would have been more of like, man, I wish that could have happened when we were together. Who knows what we could have been or done if we had that,
Right. So kind of how Issa feels. So it's kind of like how Issa feels a little bit.
Yeah, but I'm not taking credit for that shit, I'm not. Right. I'm not saying, oh, because of me, you did this. You're like, no, dude, like, you did that because something happened to you that allowed you to see that. And if it just so happens to be you dating me made you realize that, then awesome. Like, I'm glad that I was a stepping stone to help you become the person you always wanted to be or could have been,
Right, yeah.
So I will never take credit for that. I mean, I much rather be somebody's stepping stone to their success, If something that happened with me made you become successful, then by all means, dude, I love it. So I wouldn't care, dude. Honestly, it would be more wishful thinking. I'll be making hypotheticals in my head of like, man, if you were like this when you were with me, like, where could have we been by now? You know.
Right. Of course. Yes.
So
Yeah.
I wouldn't care.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. I think I have the same feeling. I feel like if I dated someone and they changed or whatever, I feel like what could have been. But you're right. I wouldn't take. It's not that I would be happy for them because obviously, if you wanted that change for them while you were together, and it just so happens if it just so happens to occur when you're not together, isn't that a good thing? I mean, it still occurred. I mean, with you or without you, take yourself out of the equation. What you wanted for them occurred, and now they're in a better position, even if it's with you or without you. And I agree 100% with that statement. I think I would be the same. I would feel the same. Like, I'm glad that you got where you needed to be.
Yeah. No,
and
sure.
I think
I prefer someone's successes. You know, I mean, it's I would love to see that. You know, if anybody I've ever dated and I've seen them do better than they were with me, I'm just like, damn, that's awesome that you're doing better.
Right.
Because maybe if you would have been with me, you would never be in that spot.
Of course. Yeah.
So it's kind of like I love seeing that success. Now you have what you wanted when you were talking to me about those things that you wanted to do, and now you have it. And it's amazing.
Your dreams are getting fulfilled, and it's who am I to like be bitter and take them away? I feel like it's crazy to feel resentment and bitterness and stuff like that, but it is such a human experience, such a human feeling.
Oh, for sure.
So of course, like, it's one of those things that we're not in the grips of those kind of situations, so it's easy for us to be like level-headed and like logically.
I'm not. Well, I can't necessarily say it either because I've dated girls and I've seen them be better. You know what I'm saying?
Right. But of course, it could be the fact that like it could be the fact that maybe your relationship with them wasn't as strong. So it's just like, whatever, it's fine.
For sure. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I prefer seeing you where you are right now because if you would have stayed with me, you probably wouldn't be hitting that high.
Right, of course.
You'd probably be stagnant or something because I'm holding you back or something like that,
Yeah.
Maybe the time you broke up with me and then the time you got with this person made you, glow up essentially, like you say.
Yeah.
Made you become what you wanted. So
yeah, I agree.
I would never hate somebody from doing that.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be upset or anything. I mean, I'm a person that I value, like, I guess, experiences and people's times, like, and I also think that sometimes that, not with everybody, but I feel like a lot of people, I get my fill. Like, I've known you for like, what, 14 years at this point? 14 years? 15 years?
Since maybe what, 04?
Yeah, so about
04, 05? I think 04 because that was 10th grade.
Yeah, it's like 15 years I've known you. And obviously we've gotten close, obviously, throughout the years. It hasn't been
and we've seen each other through shit, so.
Right, exactly. So what I'm trying to say is that when I get my experience with someone, of like a strong experience, I always feel like, well, okay, that was my time. And at the end of the day, like, even though like in this example we're just friends, but we would be doing the same things over and over. Do podcasts, hang out, drink a beer,
Yeah.
And eventually, if it were to end, well, I did experience a whole, like, chunk of, I know you half my life. So I experienced half my life with you. I feel, what I'm trying to say is I feel like once I feel that I know I've gotten a certain rhythm of something, of like a person or whatever, I'm usually okay with it ending.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want any things to end, but things were to end, But I think that way of thinking for me is pretty naive because I have only dated someone. I never have like a family or a marriage. So I think.
No, for sure.
I think all of that changes because I think if that does happen, obviously it's not. Oh yeah, well I'm okay with this ending. No,
for sure because.
These are just not. This is not just a thing that can easily be gone, especially if there's kids involved. But of course.
When it comes to romantic relationship, it's completely different from any other type of relationship you'll ever have.
Right. I agree.
It's a more personal, more deep thing that happens there.
Yeah.
But I agree with you in the sense of everybody comes and goes from your life. You know, not everyone's gonna be there forever or all the time. So I in my sense, I cherish every moment I have with somebody, and if you're gone, I cherish the times we had. You know,
Absolutely,
so
yeah. That's how I feel.
because the thing is that there's like not everyone's gonna be there forever. You know, like you don't know what's gonna happen. What if you move? You know, and then that's it. You know, our time is essentially over if you move, and that doesn't mean we're gonna stop talking. We'll still play, you know, video games together and shit like that, and catch up that way, and just like how we're doing quarantine time together now. You know, that will essentially be our long distance friendship, but our close moments are not going to be the same because we're not hanging out, we're not interacting with each other. I don't know your new life, your new friends, your new relationships, your new girlfriend or whatever you're gonna have. So it's the dynamic shifts at that moment, and I would love every moment we had together. You know, the times we spent, and if we ever have those times again, that'll be even amazing year now that you know you're missing someone essentially. But like I always feel every relationship we have as people, some of them come and go, and you just enjoy them for what they were. And if they leave, they leave, and if they stay, even better. But you know, you never know what happens in the future with somebody, so you just enjoy them while they're there.
That's exactly my sentiment of it, and that's exactly what I agree. So yeah, so in the show,
it's a hard lesson to learn though, because the first few times people leave you, you don't feel that way. You're like, oh, this person left me, or this person doesn't want to be part of my life. Oh, this shit sucks. It's terrible. It's the worst thing that ever happened.
But I think for them, they didn't ever have that moment of this person is no longer in my life. They did have it, but it was very short.
Yeah. And
once Lawrence came back into the picture, obviously they weren't buddy, but they were also like, hey, they were like, I'm going to run into you because we have the same friends, so I'm gonna be okay with it.
Yeah.
So it's
we're gonna have that same thing though. If our prediction of her and Molly is gonna come true, we're gonna have the same thing of her losing a friendship after so many years. You know.
That's true. Right.
So I think this season will potentially be a season of loss and reconciliation between characters, maybe. If what we think is gonna happen happens.
Right.
So, yeah, it's a life, essentially a life a season we're having.
Yeah, I mean that's what makes the show so great. This show has been one of the most real shows I have ever watched in terms of just characters. It's very organic, and that's what I like about it. I like that. Like I feel, you know, I always kind of say, oh, I feel like I know them, but I truly feel like I've been in their situations before, or I know what they're going through, or I can understand what, you know, we're talking about the show, and we talk about these characters as if we understand what they've gone through, or we understand their dilemmas. That's basically what we do, and it's the reason why we do it is because it's so relatable, you know.
Yeah, it's just human relationships, you know. It's not exaggerated.
Exactly, and that's what I love about this show. That it's not exaggerated. This is the whole Molly and Issa thing seems like something that can be squashed very, very easily, but it's also understandable what they're going through. You know, that's the only thing. Like it just seems like it can easily be squashed, but okay, y'all want to have drama? That's fine.
Yeah,
it makes
but
sense.
You know what? It doesn't feel
forced
drama for the sake of drama.
No, like I said, like
that's what I hate the most.
Right.
Because this just feels more like miscommunication rather than drama for the sake of drama.
Exactly. It's funny it's funny because I was like, I don't really watch like this is like a side plot, but I don't really watch like dating shows, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen like the Netflix show Love Is Blind, which is kind of corny.
Yeah.
And I saw one that's very similar, like of like 2 episodes of it, and I was like, I can't watch this. But it was called Love at First Sight, where Love is Blind is people, that's the concept. People talk like through a wall, and then they
Mm-hmm.
decide that they want to marry that person.
Yeah.
This one, experts do give you interviews, and then they pick the match for you.
Oh.
But what felt so like fake was that it shows like the person, and then it shows them doing like random house stuff, and then each person for some reason just sits on the couch and reads a book, a Bible, or like something, or they'll longingly look outside the window. Like, who looks outside the window for more than like 10 seconds? Nobody. So it's just like, this feels so fake. And then like the way it was cut and edited, I'm like, there was a part where they had to pick like the couples, and then they had to pick the fourth couple. They're like, man, I don't know, this is a hard decision. And the guy puts his head like on his like his hand on his head, and it felt so like TV.
Yeah. It's TV, man.
And I just
That's
couldn't
TV
watch
reality
it.
show.
Yeah, I was like, I can't watch this. This feels. And they're like, oh, let's figure out who. Like, yo, just say these people are the next people, and that's it. Like, don't make it so dramatized. But yeah, that's why I like Insecure, even though it's a good show, man. It just feels so. It feels so good to watch, like real, like it feels real, even if it's not real.
Yeah, that's true. So let's end with the big question that I teased at the beginning of this episode, and I think is the big question that arises at the end. Is essentially, can exes be friends? What do you think about that?
I mean, you're talking to the guy who most of his exes are friends. You're talking to the wrong guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think exes can be friends. I think it's very tricky, but I do think, I think when you date someone for that long, they're gonna leave an impression. I do think for the most part there is, because the thing is, like, I do think there is no grow up Lawrence without Issa, even though like, but I think the breakup had to happen.
Yeah.
I understand where she's coming from about like the potential or whatever. Like, yeah, you dated the potential, but you didn't make him the way he is.
Yeah.
But 100%, you don't get Issa the way he is, like without. You don't get Lawrence the way he is without Issa. That is true. Because he had to go through that breakup. That's why you don't get him. You don't get Lawrence, grow up Lawrence without Issa. And I understand that feeling of like, I am who I am because of the people I dated, because of the partnerships I had. There is no version of me without them involved.
Yeah, for sure.
And because of that, they're always going to hold a spot in like someone's life. So I do think you guys exes can be friends, obviously, given my track record. But I think it's very tricky, and things have to be laid out.
Yeah.
And discussed, obviously.
In my sense, I don't know how close of a friend you can be with an ex without it seeming weird or like, oh, they're gonna get back together, or your next partner is gonna think of it weird. But I think you can be an acquaintance with an ex, as in the sense of, not everything has to end in a bad blood. So, what are you gonna do if it doesn't end in a bad blood? Like, you're just gonna be chill people at that point. Hopefully, I would assume so. So, if you are, there's nothing wrong. But like, hey, what's up? How you doing? Oh, you're doing great. Cool, man. Just wanted to check in or something like that. If you run into each other, it doesn't have to be awkward. Of oh crap, there you are. Or I have to avoid you like they do a lot of in the movies and shit like that. I think exes can be an acquaintance in each other's life. It's just another person who came and left, you know. Um, Especially if there's no bad blood. But you know, if there's bad blood, you know, avoid that person by any means necessary. But if there isn't, and that person could potentially still be in your life, not as a partner or anything like that, but just someone you know, and you could talk to every once in a while.
Is your ideology? Is it, if we are still friends and we are still talking, then why aren't we together? Is that like your train of thought on it?
Huh.
Is your train of thought like, well, if we're gonna keep being friends and we get along so well, then why aren't we together? Like, what's keeping us what's holding us back? Is that
something went wrong though? That if you're still getting along, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're still getting along and there's still feelings there, why aren't you together?
Is that why?
There's something uncertainty, you know?
Right, but is that why you think that way? That like, okay, well, let's just not be friends, let's just be acquaintances, because if we are gonna talk, you know, every once in a while and chit chat and be cool and hang out, then why aren't we just together at this point? Then is that your train of thought?
Not necessarily, because you can still enjoy someone's company without wanting to be with them, you know.
So then why? So then why not be friends?
I'm just saying that. I guess if you were somebody else, the more respectful thing would be an acquaintance thing. If you're single, do whatever the fuck you want. You know, doesn't matter what you want to do. If you want to be friends with your ex, be friends with your ex.
But what I'm saying is, go on.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, like, for what you're saying, like, if you're okay with like enjoying someone's company and being friends, then why not just be friends then? If you're not afraid about getting back together, if that's not an issue, then why?
That could happen too.
But then why just not be friends?
Nothing is black and white. Shit's always gray. So that could happen too. You know, it could be, I just don't want to be with you anymore, but I love your partnership. I liked hanging out with you. I mean, that's the reason why we got together. So I don't want to be with you, but I would like to still share that experience with you. And yeah, that could happen too.
But that doesn't, I'm talking about, but you, that doesn't happen.
It has to be like both have to have the understanding. There can't be an ulterior motive between somebody. So, because sometimes there's an ulterior motive, you know.
Okay, so is your natural way of thinking like, okay, let's just be acquaintance, so then that way there is no ulterior motive, or the lines don't get blurred?
I think, to be honest with you, any relationship that ends, you automatically go back to zero, right? Because it's over, unless you guys are like, oh, I don't want to be with you anymore, but hey, let's keep hanging out. And they're like, all right, cool. And how often does that happen, you know?
Because
I think when something ends, it ends and it goes back to zero, and then you guys start off as acquaintances again. And
I don't think so. I think that's why this is the insecure talk is already over. This is more like a general conversation. But my train of thought is that if, you know, like, especially in layman's term, boyfriend, girlfriend, the most common word there is friend. So why throw that away, you know? And so in a relationship, that is the biggest factor, the friendship. And so if we can keep it intact, which is hard, I'm not going to say it's easy. If we can keep it intact, why just don't we?
But some people don't think about it that way.
Right, I'm an outlier in this scenario. I'm the anomaly.
For sure, you are.
For sure.
But a lot of people don't think about it that way. A lot of people think boyfriend and girlfriend as something more. They don't think of the friend, you know. And that's the reason that, you know, probably people don't get together is because they're friends, you know.
Right.
So I don't think people see the friendship part in a relationship. Of like, we love spending time with each other, and if it all ends, why can't we just be what we were? You know, we figured we went into it to know if we're good together, and we realized that we aren't. So then why can't we just keep being friends? You know, but it has to be something mutual. You know, that's such a hard thing. It's such a, both of the people have to be like, we don't like each other, but we were both really cool with each other, so they just keep being friends. And that is like tough for both people to kind of come to terms with. Like you always say, when someone breaks up, when somebody's gonna get hurt and someone's gonna stay hurt and someone's gonna get over it easier, you know. So if it's a mutual break and you both feel like, yeah, we suck each other, we suck being together and being with each other. So I think at that moment maybe you guys can transition to being friends. But if someone's still hurt, there's something stopping you, the feeling stopping each other from continuing what you had, you know. And not everyone can have that mentality of being, oh, we were great friends before we got together, why can't we just continue being friends? Some people some people can make the transition of being, yeah, let's just stay friends. And then some other people can't, like they can't see past, oh no, we were together, and no, we can't do that anymore. And that's tough, because sometimes you probably have a good friendship, and the other person, like one person be like, yeah, let's just go back to being friends. We figured we tried it out, it didn't work, so let's just go back to what we were. And another person can't do that, can't see past, oh, we were together and it sucks and we can't go back. It's kind of like, yeah, I mean, you can.
It is,
if you want to.
It is difficult. I'm not gonna say it's not difficult. I get that 100%. I guess for me, there's a comfort in knowing that someone gets me, you know, and not like in an intimate sense. There's a comfort in knowing like, wow, like, okay, you got me, like you understand me, and not just goes for like a friend, like especially if it's an intimate. Most of the time, people that get me or I get them, we've been intimate. That's just how sometimes it goes. Yeah. But I think it's just it's very comforting knowing, I guess, like that comfort of like knowing like you get me, you understand me, like you understand like my twitches and like my body movement. It's a very comforting feeling that I enjoy. It feels secure. So I guess as a friendship side, I like to keep that feeling around. Not necessarily to go to anything, but I just like that feeling of someone knowing me.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Especially if you've opened yourself up to somebody and they opened themselves to you. And if you guys, both of you are willing to and can see each other going back to what you were, or just continuing the relationship without, you know, the physicality and the intimacy that comes with physicality, and you know, by all means. But it's tough, dude. It has to be a mutual thing that both of the parties involved can see that and see past the relationship and just see the friendship that can evolve from that.
Yeah.
And it also comes down to, at the end, it's like, say you break up with somebody, can you see yourself with someone else, and can you feel comfortable with seeing that other person with someone else?
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Because if it hurts you seeing with somebody else, then you're never gonna be friends until maybe some years pass by. But if you're okay with seeing that person with someone else, then you could probably become friends.
Yeah,
and not necessarily want to be with each other.
It's like that. Not a musical reference. That Gwen Stefani song, "Cool."
Cool.
I know, cool. Alright, to bring it back to, I agree with you 100%. To bring it back to the show, and let's wrap it up. Do you think they can be friends, or are they going to be something else?
Man, it's tough, dude, because you see the lingering there, you know. They both always linger on each other. So I don't think they can be friends, because you see Issa's hurt by the fact that he's growing up without her, and I
don't think that they're friends. I don't think that they're friends. They're kind of acquaintances.
I don't think they can be friends.
But I don't think they are friends.
No, they're not, and I don't think they can be. It's either they're together or they're not. You know, so.
Okay, but can they maintain this, like, whatever, this acquaintance that they got going on? Because they don't really talk they just run into each other, or
Yeah.
the only time we see them talk directly, like hit them up directly, was the when Lawrence went to go see Issa to talk about Condola and him. Other than that, you don't really see them chit chat in a friendly way. Other than this, the ending of this episode, which can still be a acquaintance or a general like conversation.
Look, I think they can maintain acquaintance to be an acquaintance. I can always be maintained. It's easy to maintain that, you know.
So
it's not hard.
What we see currently.
Yeah, that's not hard to maintain. Like, I see you, I'm not gonna be a dick to you. I'm just gonna be like, yo, what's up? And that's it, you know? That can be easily maintained. But I don't think they could either be more than that. I don't think they could be friends without there being something there. And that is probably like the biggest problem if they ever have a relationship with anybody else. Because Issa is bothered by him being in a relationship. And I remember Lawrence being bothered by the fact that Issa was in a relationship. So it's something of I don't think they can ever be friends. It's either they're together or they'll just be forever acquaintances, you know. That's why I see it. Yeah, that's it.
All right, so I guess we're gonna have to figure out how this season develops.
Yep, indeed. We'll see. We have plenty of more episodes to go, so that's pretty good. 2 extra ones than normal. But yeah, thank you everyone for listening to this episode of Insecure recap review, whatever you want to call it. Hope you enjoyed it.
Show.
An HBO show. Let us know what you think about what we talked about, and what are your thoughts and ideas about this. Till next time.
Later, guys.